Fresh off his Oscar win for Argo, Ben Affleck was cast as the Cape Crusader, with the idea that he'd first square off against Superman, then form the Justice League before helming a standalone Batman adventure as both actor and director. Unfortunately, that last part never happened for a variety of reasons. So let's dive in and find out what those were and what could have been Ben Affleck's The Batman. After catching a glimpse of a Wayne Enterprises satellite in Man of Steel, fans immediately began to wonder whether this version of Superman existed in Nolan's Batman universe. As we waited on news for Man of Steel 2, fans were shocked to learn that plans for a direct sequel would be delayed in favor of expanding the DC universe by pitting Superman against Batman.
I want you to remember my hand at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
And while Warner Brothers desperately wanted Christian Bale to reprise the role, allegedly willing to back a Brinks truck up to his home in order to have him return, Nolan ultimately chose to recast the Cape Crusader, feeling Superman in the greater DC universe didn't fit into his grounded take on Gotham City. And with that, speculation immediately began to swirl over who would play Batman until news finally broke that it would be Ben Affleck.
Affleck, you the bomb in Phantom, Joe!
Many fans, having not learned their lesson after Keaton was cast as Batman and Ledger as the Joker, were quick to criticize the move.
You must have really been hurt by those comments.
I was hurt. I was less hurt than I would have been 10 years earlier. But I was hurt because I felt like, wait a minute, come on, what do I got to do?
But regardless of what the internet thought, WB must have thought they pulled off quite the coup. Not only because they would be getting an A-list actor, but said actor had emerged over the last few years as one of Hollywood's top directors, helping to not only revitalize his public image after Geely nearly killed his career, but also land the job as the Batman's lead actor and director. To prepare for the role, Affleck immediately hit the gym and bulked up before starring alongside Henry Cavill in Batman v Superman. And the results, unfortunately, were not what Warner Brothers were hoping for.
Since reviews for the film have come out, and I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at them, or like your response to those, or...
No, what are they saying?
Well, it's been getting a mixed response. See, you already know.
I just wanted you to say that. I wanted to see what you would say.
Personally, I really liked it, but I just wondered whether that, how that makes you guys feel, and whether it will even affect the film as such.
Well, the interesting thing is that we get the criticism.
Following the record-breaking opening weekend, which proved there was massive interest in the film, its second weekend saw a record-breaking box office drop due to poor reviews and negative word of mouth. Still, $800 million is nothing to sneeze at, which is why plans for Justice League went ahead at full steam. From here, everyone knows the story. Not only did director Zack Snyder's daughter tragically pass away, but Warner Brothers were less than thrilled with the footage they were seeing as the movie was being shot. And after Snyder stepped down to be with his family, WB hired Joss Whedon to rewrite and reshoot large segments of the film. When Joss Whedon's version of Justice League finally arrived in theaters, the film was followed by a post-credits scene that featured Deathstroke and Lex Luthor deciding to team up, teasing the Luthor-led stable of supervillains known as the Injustice League as the primary antagonists for a future sequel to the Justice League.
Shouldn't we have a league of our own?
However, once Zack Snyder's director's cut of Justice League came out, fans saw a very different version of this scene. In fact, what they saw was the original version, which was designed to set up Ben Affleck's standalone Batman film, as Lex Luthor reveals Batman's secret identity to Deathstroke. When the scene was originally shot, plans were for Affleck's Batman film to follow, but during reshoots on Justice League, plans changed, as DC not only began to rethink the entire DCEU, but Affleck began wavering on directing Batman after his awful experience shooting Justice League, leading to Warner Brothers pumping the brakes on the standalone film.
That scene was then reconfigured to tease a Justice League 2 movie that didn't happen.
The original plan was for Deathstroke to be the main villain of Affleck's Batman film, and his version of the character would have been out for revenge as he blamed Batman for his son's death. After learning of Batman's identity from Lex Luthor in this post-credits scene, it would have set the wheels for Deathstroke's master plan in motion. Influenced by David Fincher's The Game, which saw Michael Douglas's character, a wealthy, isolated investment banker, navigate a web of secrets, puzzles, and challenges designed to test his limits and force him to confront his fears as he struggles to understand whether the events he's experiencing are part of an elaborate game or genuine threats to his life. In The Batman, Deathstroke begins by systematically dismantling Bruce's life and murdering all of the people closest to him like a horror movie villain, while simultaneously destroying Bruce's finances glasses and painting him into a corner. Alfred would have died, and it's possible Commissioner Gordon would have been another likely target. However, it's worth noting that in the game, Michael Douglas navigates a world that blurs the lines between reality and illusion, requiring him to decipher truth from deception. So it stands to reason whether Deathstroke is actually killing those close to Bruce, or just making him think that he did. Not only does Deathstroke make Bruce Wayne's life into a living hell, but he does the same to Batman by orchestrating a breakout at Arkham to tire Batman out and wear him down. In fact, the bulk of the script was primarily set in Arkham Asylum. So if you're a huge fan of those games and always thought they would have made a great movie, you would have got your wish. However, this begs the question of what members of Batman's rogue gallery would have been released. It's been rumored that many, if not most of them, would have made an appearance in the film in one way or another, with Jared Leto's Joker definitely returning. Cinematographer Robert Richardson, famous for his collaborations with both Scorsese and Tarantino, was hired to lens the picture, and he claimed that the film was going to be a psychological exploration of Batman, and would have delved into the insanity aspects of Bruce's character, and audiences would have seen something a little darker than what they've seen in the past.
Come on, finish him. Look at him. Look at him. Better than the creep who killed your parents.
And if you played the Arkham games, you know that this sort of thing is also explored there too, as Batman finds himself drugged by Joker, where he experiences hallucinations as he delves into the layers of his past traumas as a crime fighter. A Batman film set in Arkham would have been a refreshing change of pace for the franchise, as previous films have mostly dealt with Gotham City. A film about an older Batman trapped in Arkham, which is inherently claustrophobic, and forced to confront not only his enemies but also his inner demons, would have been a unique cinematic experience. And speaking of those inner demons, we would have learned more about what happened to Robin, which would have served to act as a parallel to Deathstroke's backstory of losing a son.
Why you sent a boy wonder to do a man's job?
The idea behind Deathstroke in this film was to make him a mirror image of Batman, with both men trained by the League of Assassins. Affleck was insistent that just like Bruce, he didn't want Deathstroke to have any powers. He just wanted a man who experienced a tragedy, but instead of going down the path Bruce went and trying to fight crime and prevent similar tragedies from reoccurring, Deathstroke just became a nihilistic killer consumed by revenge. This characterization would have served as a nice contrast to Bruce, showing the road not taken after the death of his parents. However, after the death of Robin, Batman seems to have embraced some of this mentality and disregarded his #1 rule: no killing. Enraged after the death of Alfred and others close to him, the climax of the film would have seen Batman out for revenge. With his life reduced to shambles, he heads into a final showdown against Deathstroke as they fight in the streets of Gotham, inspired by the fight choreography in the Arkham Origins cinematic trailer. Finding himself overwhelmed, outmatched, and completely outclassed by Deathstroke, Batman would have found himself pushed to the brink. On the verge of defeat and likely death, he would have been saved by Batgirl, who'd swoop in to help. As they work to turn the tide against Deathstroke and gain the upper hand, I'd imagine Batman would choose to spare Deathstroke's life instead of killing him, as he goes back to embrace his #1 rule of no killing, completing his character arc. Deathstroke's life being spared is also teased in the nightmare scene in the Snyder Cut, which sees Batman and Deathstroke on good terms. Although in this scene, Batman does tell Joker he plans on killing him sometime in the future, so it's possible he makes an exception to this rule. Keep in mind, however, that this scene was written and shot after plans for Affleck's Batman film were scrapped, so they may not share any continuity with each other. So, why did this movie never happen? The answer is simple: the Justice League. While Affleck would say that he enjoyed making Batman vs Superman, he would call Justice League the worst experience of his professional life, saying, "You could teach a seminar on all of the reasons why this is not how to do it, ranging from the production to bad decisions to horrible personal tragedy, and just ending with the most monstrous taste in my mouth. I was going to direct a Batman film and Justice League made me go, I'm out. I never want to do any of this again. It broke my heart." Joss Whedon came in and was like, "I'll rescue you and we'll do 60 days of shooting and I'll write a whole thing around what you have. I've got the secret." And it wasn't the secret. And I started to drink too much. I was back at the hotel in London. It was either that or jump out the window. And I just thought, I don't want to participate in this in any way.
I found that I had kind of at just some point lost my enthusiasm or passion for it. I was like, this should really be made by somebody for whom it's their wildest dream, come true. And for me, it had become like something different, and it was clear to me that it was time to move on.
Eventually, Affleck would decide to step down as director, but still plan to star and produce. Unfortunately, Affleck struggled to get the script to a point where he was happy with it, saying, "We worked on the script, I was trying to figure out how to crack it, and I was never happy enough with it where I thought it was worth going out and making it." Compounding matters was the fact that Affleck was going through a divorce and grappling with alcohol dependency, and he harbored concerns that another awful production experience might lead him back into unhealthy patterns. All of these reasons would cause Affleck to finally step down, as he felt it was time for someone else to have a shot at it, and that person would be Matt Reeves. After reading Affleck's script, he would say it was very action-driven. It was very deeply connected to the DCEU, with other major characters from other movies and other comics popping up. I just knew that when I read it, this particular script was not the way I'd want to do it. So as Reeves started over, he ironically would choose another Fincher film for inspiration, Seven, and use that film as a jumping-off point for his version of Batman. This story, however, does have a somewhat happy ending, as Affleck would get to return one last time to play the Cape Crusader in The Flash, feeling that he finally figured out how to play the character and nailed it in the film. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Bullets and Blockbusters for more great content.